the company can give a list of authorized signatory which contain the specimen signature of the person who is executing these documents. It becomes more important in case of company to ensure that all these things are available. Plus, as a precaution, you should always attach a board resolution for the purpose of investment or disinvestment in shares. So this board resolution is also required for ensuring that the person who is signing the document is authorized. After that, there may be cases where a person had died. Now, in all such cases where the member had deceased, in such cases the legal owner or the legal heirs of the person can also participate. However, for doing this participation, you need certain document to prove the ownership and the legal heirship. Now, these documents are either you have to provide a copy of the death certificate, plus along with that you have to provide either the succession certificate or the copy of probate or will. This will substantiate your claim over the title of the shares, and if these documents are not submitted in case of death of the shareholder, then this tender of shares will be rejected. Now, there can be a situation where the address of the shareholder has changed. In all such cases, you have to ensure that your address proof is also submitted. Address proof, you can provide any utility bill or bank statement copy which is not older than 2 months. This is required to be self-attested and to be submitted along with the documents. Why this address proof is required? Because in case there is a rejection of shares, or say as I said, you have tendered 100 shares but only 90 has been accepted, the remaining 10 shares will be returned by the registrar. For returning these shares, your correct and the present address is required. So address proof also becomes equally important. Now, certain pointers which have to be taken care of while participating in all such offers. The key point is that ensure that your signatures are matching with the signatures which is available in the records of the company. Otherwise, as we discussed, you have to provide a attested copy of the share transfer deed by the bank manager. Then you have to attach the original share certificate. The original share certificate should be good for transfer. In case the shares have been splitted in the past or consolidated or subdivided, or there has been a bonus issue or name change has been there, please ensure that you have the latest certificate available. Otherwise, it will risk your tender of shares in the offer and it will get rejected. Now, all the documents which you are providing, it should be self-attested. Ensure that all pages are signed. Then thereafter, all the documents should reach to the registrar to the offer not later than 2 working days from the date of closure. In case it is received by the registrar after 2 working days, then the shares will be rejected. Also, these documents should be sent only to the registrar, not to any other intermediary, because registrar is authorized to hold these shares on your behalf until the offer process gets completed. Now, how do you receive the payment? You have tendered the shares have been accepted, but payment is equally critical. For getting the payment, when you open the trading account, you have provided your details to the stockbroker. In these details, one of the document is you have to provide the copy of your bank statement and the cancel check. When you provide the copy of the cancel check, the MICAR code, the IFSC number code, your account number, name of the account holder, all these things get updated into the stockbroker system and also on the stock exchange. So this is required for the purpose of remittance of money after acceptance of shares. Now, the consideration when the settlement happens on the stock exchange platform, under the settlement process, there is a clearing corporation of a stock exchange. This clearing corporation will take shares from your demat account, will take money from the broker. They will do the settlement. This settlement is an automated process. No individual or a corporate entity or a stockbroker can interfere into this process. So it is a very transparent process. Under this process, based on the acceptance of the shares, out of 100, if your 90 shares have been accepted, based on this acceptance ratio, the shares will be accepted by the stock exchange. Now, once these shares are accepted, the shares will directly move out of your demat account or to the account of the buyer. Similarly, the payment money will move out of the account of the buyer, which is maintained with the stockbroker, and the money will go to your account. This is about when you have tendered in demat form. But what happens when you are tendering in physical form? In physical form, there are no shares available in the demat account. Taking cognizance of the fact that you have tendered in physical form, the stock exchange will not take any share. They will put a record into their put an entry into their record that these are physical shares. However, the payment will automatically move from the broker or the buyer account to your account. Ideally, this amount goes to your account. However, under this process, if there is a failure or there is a mismatch in MICAR code or the account number or the name of the account holder which has been inputted into the system of the stock exchange, this money will go to the stockbroker from whom you have tendered the shares. Now, it is the responsibility of the stockbroker to give these shares back, to give this money to you. Ideally, this settlement will happen on T plus 1 day. That means the date on which the transaction is settled on the platform of the stock exchange, the settlement will actually happen on the next working day. Once the settlement happens, the money by the end of day will go to either your account or your broker account. If you have not received that money, please ensure that you get connected with your stockbroker and get this money. However, there are certain expenses which are coming into the next slide. These are certain expenses which you have to bear out of your own pocket. The expenses are the brokerage, security transaction tax, then stamp duty, the SEBI fees or GST on the brokerage applicable. These are certain add-on expenses. So generally what happens, say for example you have sold shares worth 100 rupees, these expenses could be anywhere in the range of 0.3, 0.4% to 1% of the total value of consideration. This amount will be deducted by the stockbroker from the money which is payable to you, and the remaining balance amount will be paid to you. So all the costs which are incurred for the purpose of selling, these have to be borne by you as a seller only. And that cost will remain same whether you tender it in physical form or in demat form, irrespective of the nature of tender. Now coming to the last portion which is there, you have sold your shares, but how this will become taxable? Under Income Tax Act, there is a taxability provision. It does not bifurcate or distinguish between demat and physical shares. Whatever is the tax liability for a person holding shares in demat form, the same tax liability will be there for person holding in demat physical form also. Now, what are these kind of taxation? There are two kind of taxations. One is long-term capital gain tax. Second is a short-term capital gain tax. Long-term capital gain tax means a share which has been held by you continuously for a period of more than 12 months. So 12 months is the period which quantifies your long term. If these shares are long term, then you are subject to a tax rate of 10%. However, when we talk about shares which have been purchased within the last 12-month period, these shares will be deemed as short term shares. Short term capital gain will generate over these shares. Now, this short term capital gain is taxable at a rate of 15%. Whether we talk about 10% or 15%, all the tax rates have to be added on with the surcharge and with applicable tax. So the actual effective tax rate might be higher than this. Now these considerations are settled through the stock exchange, and there will be a levy of STT, security transaction tax, over this. Security transaction tax is an amount of 0.10% over the consideration amount. Now, security transaction tax is payable in all cases which are settled through the stock exchange. There is no exception to it. However, it might be possible there are certain open offers or delisting offers which are happening off the stock exchange platform. Why this happens? There are certain regulations related to FEMA. Under FEMA regulations, if a overseas entity is taking control of the company, they cannot buy shares through the stock exchange. So in such cases, these shares will be settled off the stock exchange. The stock exchange will not come into picture. You will have to directly send your share to the registrar to the offer. The registrar to the offer will accept the shares, and the payment will be made directly to you by the acquirer. There is no involvement of exchange or the stockbroker, and in this case there will be no added costing to your sale consideration, as we discussed in the last sheet with respect to your STT, the GST, SEBI and stamp duty. So these are certain savings which will be there. However, the process will be a direct process. Now when we talk about such kind of situation, there are different tax rates. When we talk about a settlement which has not happened on the stock exchange platform, there will be no levy of securities transaction tax. If there is no levy of securities transaction tax, then in that case the tax rate, long term tax rate, it will increase to 20% or 10% without indexation. We will discuss this again. And in terms of short term capital gains, there will be applicable marginal tax rate. What is applicable marginal tax rate? There are different slabs under income tax. Your tax free income is 2.5 lakh, then it goes to 5 lakh, then 5 lakh to 10 lakh bracket, and then more than 10 lakh. Or under each of the tax bracket, if you are having a taxable income, then tax will be paid accordingly. From 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh 10%, 5 to 10 lakh 20%, and 10 lakh above will be 30%. So whatever tax bracket you are falling, you have to pay tax according to that rate. However, when we talk about long term capital gains, under long term capital gains, there is a tax liability of 20% with indexation and 10% without indexation. 20% with indexation means that you might have purchased these shares in 2010. There is a cost inflation index involved. With the cost inflation index, you have to increase your cost of acquisition. Then that will be your index cost of acquisition. From the sale consideration, you reduce this index cost of acquisition. This will give you the profit. And if you are not going for indexation, then in that case, there will be a flat tax rate of 10% on the profit which you have earned. So friends, this was all about what we had discussed today about tender of shares in physical form. This may help you in actual terms when you are selling shares on the stock exchange under these processes. And please ensure that you get your demat accounts opened for future purposes, because demat is a hassle free way, and eventually the physical share certificates will phase out. Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaskar.
क्रिटिकल है बट वी आर ट्राइंग।
ये सब हुआ कैसे?
एक फोन आया था राजेश के पास। उसने कहा कि उनकी 1 करोड़ की लॉटरी निकली है और उसके लिए उसने बैंक डिटेल्स मांगी। राजेश ने सारी डिटेल्स दे दी। 1 घंटे के अंदर ही उनके बैंक अकाउंट से सारा पैसा साफ हो गया और वो यहाँ आ गए। हार्ट अटैक आया है।
देखा आपने, आपकी जरा सी असावधानी क्या कर सकती है। डिजिटल फ्रॉड करने वालों से सावधान रहें। अपनी बैंक डिटेल्स, अपना डेबिट या क्रेडिट कार्ड नंबर, एक्सपायरी डेट, सीवीवी, ओटीपी, पिन कभी किसी को ना बताएं। सावधान रहें, समझदार बने।
IEPF अथॉरिटी द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
हाँ जी सुरेश जी, रिटायरमेंट के बाद जो प्रोविडेंट फंड आएगा उसका क्या करेंगे?
कुछ खास प्लान नहीं है, पड़ा रहेगा बैंक में, ब्याज आता रहेगा और क्या।
सुरेश जी, बैंक से कितना ब्याज आएगा? एक नई स्कीम बताता हूँ, उसमें पैसे लगा दो, साल भर में दुगने बल्कि चौगुना हो जाएगा। हाँ, बस कुछ नए मेंबर्स बनाने।
नहीं सुरेश जी, इन सब फालतू चक्करों में मत पड़िए कि नए मेंबर बनाना, रातों रात करोड़पति बनाना, ऐसे सपने दिखाने वाली स्कीम से बचकर रहें। आप लालच में आकर नहीं, समझदारी से निवेश करें। नए मेंबर बनाओ, वर्ल्ड टूर पे जाओ, कमीशन पाओ या उपहार घर ले जाओ। ऐसे सपने दिखाने वाली स्कीम से बचकर रहें। ऐसी स्कीम्स धोखा हो सकती हैं।
IEPF अथॉरिटी, कॉर्पोरेट कार्य मंत्रालय द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
मेरे बचपन का दोस्त है, वो क्यों मुझसे झूठ कहने लगा? वो कह रहा था इस स्कीम में पैसा लगाने पर 6 महीने में 10 के 20,000 हो जाएंगे।
और तूने मान लिया?
ऐसा ऑफर कौन छोड़ता है? 10,000 के 20,000।
एक काम कर, ये ले 100 रुपये पकड़ना और जाके 10 किलो लड्डू लेके आ।
अबे पागल है क्या? 100 रुपए में 10 किलो लड्डू आते हैं? अबे इसके तो 1 किलो लड्डू भी नहीं आएंगे।
जब इतना जानता है तो ये नहीं जानता कि 6 महीने में 10,000 के 20,000 नहीं होते। समझदारी बड़ा, लालच नहीं।
लालच में न आए, समझदारी बढ़ाएं। IEPF अथॉरिटी